Welcome to the University of Oregon's virtual town hall. My name is Jennifer Winters, and I'll be your host for the next 90 minutes. This is a spring term like no other here at the University of Oregon, and we do hope that you and your loved ones are well during these challenging times. Today, we'll be joined by Michael Schill, our president, Provost Patrick Phillips, and some UO faculty and staff members who will help answer questions from you, our students, and your families. Well, we've already received more than 600 questions in advance, and if there's a specific question that you would like to ask now, please email us at townhall@uoregon.edu. But first, I'd like to introduce our president and professor of law, Michael Schill. So President Schill, the UO has made so many changes over the last few weeks in the response to this health crisis. We're providing remote education our first day today. Our faculty and staff are working remotely, and only employees who are critical to our academic and research mission are here on campus. So what are you focused on right now?
Jennifer, thanks very much. I just want to thank all of you for being part of this virtual town hall. This is my first virtual town hall. We're actually doing a lot of things for the first time lately. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in. And I hope all of you are doing well and making the sort of adjustments that we're having to make every day. The university, as we move forward, we have two main goals, and those two goals, first and foremost, is the health and welfare of our students, our faculty, our staff, administrators. That is key. That's the most important thing. And the second thing is that we want to make sure, and it's one of the reasons why we're doing this town hall, we want to make sure that the coronavirus and the what's happened since it has hit this country doesn't in any way impede your education. We want you to stay on track. We want you to be able to graduate when you want to graduate and go off and achieve your dreams. And everyone here, including me and everybody participating, all of our faculty and staff are committed to that. And we hope that all of you are able to succeed this quarter. We know we're going to do everything possible to make that happen in our remote education. And one thing I do want to do is say, if anyone has issues with that they need help with, please reach out to us. We're here for you. We want to answer your questions today, but it's not going to stop today. It's going to go on and on. And one of the things I want to announce today is we are going to create a $1 million fund for students in crisis. So if you have problems, if you're unable, say, for example, to pay your rent or afford groceries, many of you are, employed at the university, but maybe not living here, and you may be having issues handling that. You should let us know. We have the information on the screen, and we'll hear about it later on, some of the ways that money can be accessed. But that is just another way for us to say, you're part of our family. And like any family, we are committed to you. We want us all to succeed. We want us all to be well. So, Jennifer, back to you.
Thanks so much, President Schill. And based on the questions that we've received so far, we're going to cover a number of additional questions throughout this town hall. We've already received more than 600 of your questions. And again, we'd love to hear from you during this program. So if we don't get to your question, sit tight. We will be sure that we provide additional information. That information is at uoregon.edu coronavirus. On that page, you have all of the decisions that we've made as an institution, plus our frequently asked questions. To give you a brief overview of some of those topics that you've already told us that you want to hear about that we will cover in this program, we're going to be talking about remote education, of course, and the way in which our campus has changed in order to support remote education. We'll talk about academic support, also health and wellness, student support, tuition and fees, housing, and commencement. Now, we do have a number of people experts on our campus who are here to help answer your questions. Of course, President Michael Schill, we'll hear from him again. Patrick Phillips, who is our Provost and Senior Vice President, our Chief Academic Officer. Danica Scott, the Vice Provost for the Division of Undergraduate Education and Student Success. Chris Winter, the Associate Vice President for the Division of Student Life and our Dean of Students. Sarah Nutter, Dean of the Lundquist College of Business. And Deborah Beck, the Executive Director of the University Health Center. Thanks you all for joining us today. So let's go ahead and get started with our Provost, Patrick Phillips. So Patrick, today is the first day of remote learning for thousands of our students and of course our faculty too. We've received a lot of questions and we're receiving some more even right now as I speak about how this is going to work. How will the university deliver remote education and how will we make this manageable for our campus?
Let me start by just saying hello to everyone out there. We're very excited to have you with us this afternoon and to share some information with you, as well as to hear some of your concerns. And yeah, this is definitely a challenging time, and it's natural for students to be concerned about how we're going to make all of this work. I just want to say also that the faculty are also concerned because they're going to miss their students. And I think a defining feature of the education of the University of Oregon is, of course, the special relationship that we foster between faculty and students in the classroom environment. And there's naturally a sense of loss on all sides of that. And so we're 100% committed to making this work very well. I think the educational experience will be not dissimilar to what we're doing right now. The courses will be the same, the faculty are the same, the student-teacher ratios are the same chance to interact with each other and with your fellow students during class and in office hours. All of that is going to be the same. The difference is that for now, we just have to be on other sides of usually computer screens in order to achieve that. So the courses will be delivered at the same time. We'll also be making provisions for those courses to be recorded so you can access them remotely if your schedule doesn't allow it. But for the most part, we're 100% committed to delivering the same great quality education that we always do. And in order to achieve that, we basically cleared the decks. And this is what we're doing this term, is everybody is 100% committed to their educational delivery. We're eliminating other kind of service requirements and other things that faculty normally do so they can focus 100% on rapidly getting their courses up to speed. And I will say that we've been tracking this situation for a while. We're somewhat fortunate that we knew some weeks ago that we were going to be going to remote education. And so faculty have been able to have, we would always like to have more time, but they've had some time to get things ready. And so we're able to launch full steam ahead.
So Patrick, I think one of the questions a lot of people have is, how do you do science labs or creative expression in a virtual environment? How can the students still interact with their faculty in sort of that more one-on-one kind of way or in groups? Is that possible with remote learning?
It's definitely one of the biggest challenges, I would say, of the whole remote experience for sure, and we acknowledged that and started working on that right away. And so there are best practices at a national level. Of course, this is a national issue that every university and college is addressing. So we have ways of trying to create that experiential part in science labs so that everybody has a chance to see the experiments that are going on. Still, the core is analyzing data and doing those things. In some cases, for some of our more creative practices, we're sending kits home with students so that they have the materials that they need to engage in that work. And of course, there's always opportunities for virtual education in a wide variety of those things that we can make use of the fact that we now have several decades of investment of effort, again, at a national scale in figuring out how to do this well.
So we also had to do some investments for technology in order to make this work. Is there some advice for students if they're having either challenges with technology or anything like that that you can provide?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that President Schill already emphasized is that we're all about communication at this moment in time. So we're trying to reach out actively and get all our information out there. And one way that we've done that is we made a lot of new websites to support students, faculty, and staff through this event. And so one of them, as you see on the screen right now, is remote.uoregon.edu students. And we have resources that give advice and tricks and tips for studying. We're also institutionally 100% committed to making sure that students have the access to the technology that they need in order to do this remote education. So we're giving out loaner laptops to students who are in need. We're making sure that students have the internet access that they need. And so we understand our responsibility, and if students have any challenges, they should let us know. But also, if there's issues with your courses, reach out directly to your instructors. They're ready to help you in any way that they can to make things work well.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. We're going to turn now to one of the deans of our schools and colleges. Dean Nutter is with the Lundquist College of Business. So can you give us, Sarah, a little bit of perspective on what we can expect at the specific college level? I know that you've been working with the faculty and talking with them. What are they? How are they approaching this unique situation?
Yeah, and first I'd like to say that when I was asked to participate in this town hall, and I mentioned it to the faculty and staff in the college, the thing that they wanted me to say very first was that we at the Lundquist College of Business care about you. And I think that's true across campus, but we are missing you as much as perhaps you're missing us and being together physically. But we are fully committed to making sure that we are ensuring that you're staying on track from an educational perspective, and are really looking to connect both through group activities as well as individually. So when I think about shifting to this remote learning environment within the college, technology is nothing new for us. We actually, over the past 3 years, have made commitments to bring some of our courses fully online. And I've been especially grateful to the faculty members that have done that hard work, which is quite substantive, that they've offered their expertise and insight to create a very rich and remote learning environment for the faculty members that will be teaching you this spring. We also have, several weeks ago, we have 2 full-time instructional designers on staff, and we made sure that those individuals were quickly engaged with the faculty members that are actually teaching this spring. So they've been working very diligently, the faculty have been working very diligently to ensure that when you are in our classes, it will be a very rich, active learning environment. And not only that, we are looking to achieve the same learning outcomes that we would have if you would have been with us face-to-face. So when we say remote learning, that doesn't mean that it's all one-way communication. That active learning environment will include live class sessions. But as the provost has already noted, we're ensuring that we know that technology can be an issue and access at certain points for some of you may be a challenge. So we're ensuring that we're recording those sessions. So if for some reason you can't be there at the specific moment in time, that they are recorded and will be available to you later. In addition, there'll be virtual office hours, discussions. Each of our faculty members is adapting the course that they have so that you can have a very active and engaged experience.
Right.
And I guess last thing I would say is don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much, Dean Nutter. And I just want to let people know that we see your emails are coming in. We see that people are asking about housing and about out-of-state tuition, and we will be getting to those questions here shortly. Thank you so much. Please do keep bringing in those questions, and we are answering them as they come in, and we will get to some of those additional questions shortly here. I'd like now to bring in Danica Scott, our Vice Provost for Student Success. We certainly know that the President talked about wanting to make sure we keep students on track. Can you please tell us a little bit about how your office, your advisors, and your staff are working in this virtual environment to support University of Oregon students?
Yes, thanks, Jennifer. And it definitely is interesting times. And so, although my fellow panelists may beg to differ, I actually have the best job on campus because I get the privilege of really ensuring that students are successful at the University of Oregon. I get to do that all day, every day. And then also to help them navigate spring term in these conditions. And so, what does that look like for spring term for our students? And really, what it is providing and continuing to provide the same high quality services that students have come to rely upon. So, advising and tutoring, accommodations, access to therapists. So, all of those same services that we offer as an institution, we're just doing it in a remote session. So, I sent an email to all of our students to let them know about resources and how they would be able to access resources. And we have that actually posted as well. So in addition to the services and the resources, we also temporarily changed some of the policies, academic policies that we have, including extending the deadline for pass, no pass selection, changing the mandatory attendance policy, as well as halting the students who maybe have academic disqualification. So equally important, though, and important to me, is ensuring that students are connected and they are connected and engaged with faculty, whether it's through courses and office hours, but also our staff. We have an outreach campaign in which we are personally connecting with each of our students to be able to do that. And then also peers. So we've been able to be really creative in how we're trying to help students still connect in some of the very important things that they've been able to do. So for instance, our undergraduate research symposium, which is basically an opportunity for our students to present their research to their peers, to faculty and staff, in which last year we had about more than 500 students in over 75 majors be able to participate. This year, we are able to do that virtually. So we're not canceling it, we're just moving it into a remote environment. I think the key to the work that we're doing is to really ensure that students are able to progress and to be successful. And really, my job is to ensure that we're removing any potential barrier that may preclude a student from doing that.
And that really requires students to reach out and for families to support students if they're at home, if they're seeing that their student is needing support, encouraging them as adults to call all those numbers, to talk to you. I mean, you guys really want to hear from them, don't you?
We really do. Just know that we are here, ready, available to help students navigate this term. So utilizing the resources that are there to fully is what will help our students. And for example, we're doing advising a little bit differently. So if you go to the remote resources website, they will be able to download Microsoft Teams and download Navigate. So they currently use Navigate to set up appointments with advisors. They would do that. And then those advising sessions are happening with Microsoft Teams. So while we're not in the same room, we are still very connected, and it's really important that students are still academically and socially connected to the institution and realize that they have access to services. And we're eager and willing and ready to provide the support that they need.
Thank you so much, Danica. So now what we're going to do is turn to our health center. I know that a question we've been receiving a lot of course, our entire nation is concerned about how we ensure that we are healthy. And of course, here at the University of Oregon, our students' health is a top priority. And so we're going to bring in Deborah Beck. She's the executive director for the Health Center. And Deb, I know this has really been an unprecedented time for all of us, but you have been there on the front lines. And what can you tell students about how, and their families, about how the university is thinking about their health?
Sure, thank you for having me. As a nurse and a healthcare provider, I want to say thank you to all of those in the community who are providing healthcare to the people who are ill and have other needs. All of us are concerned about this, and I just want to reassure you that we're in this with you. It's important, and we remain committed to the healthcare of our University of Oregon students. Our University Health Center is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. with a full staff of medical providers here. We've developed some practices and procedures to keep our students safe, our staff safe, so we are separating ill and well students, so well students can come in and get their care through psychiatry, pharmacy, physical therapy, and other things that they may need. And we're implementing a way that our ill students can go in a different area so they remain separate from the well students, and we're really trying hard to make sure everyone is safe and secure in our practice while we remain open for students. We do have a website, health.uoregon.edu. It's available 24/7. It has a lot of information about our services and resources available to our students. We do have a nurse advice line that is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And while we're open Monday through Friday, we're committed to taking those phone calls. You can see the nurse advice hotline on the screen. It is our main number. And so our nurses are actually answering those calls frontline while we're open. After that, we have a team of dedicated registered nurses answering those calls all night long and on the weekend. We have several virtual resources for students to take care of themselves, online meditation. There'll be other online courses coming up where there'll be interactive for meditation, things like sketching and other sorts of things that we'll have out there. That's all through a service at our Duck Nest. And they have a link on our main webpage to their webpage so you can see the resources that are available. We also have a full psychiatry service open. Our psychiatrists are here, they're available. We are assisting people online in the event they have a healthcare concern that they should not come into our building. And we are also helping refills with prescriptions as well. Our mental health counseling area is open. It is open Monday through Friday. They are doing a mix of in-person and telephone care. And so they are readily available for the students. And our services are available for all UO students, whether you're in Eugene or not. We're happy to take care of you. If you have a healthcare concern and you're not here and we won't be seeing you in person, we're also happy to talk to you and discuss your concern and give you advice.
So Deb, a question that we have here is, if a student does have symptoms, what should they do?
So we have a call first campaign, and we're asking that all students who have symptoms, please call our nurses. You can discuss your symptoms and we'll give you guidance over the phone on the best way to take care of yourself. If you develop symptoms before we're open, you may call our after hours nurse line, or you can also just self-isolate, monitor your symptoms, and then give our nurses a call. Many of your concerns we may be able to help without bringing you in, and others we may need to bring you in for a physical exam. We have providers readily available, as well as a full lab and radiology staff and a pharmacy to support you for any of your needs.
Another question that people want to know is, number one, if a student can be tested for COVID-19, and number two, what is the prevalence of COVID-19 in Oregon in our area?
Thank you. Oregon has about 633 cases right now, and we have less than 15 in Lane County. There is COVID-19 testing available for those experiencing symptoms. It is at a clinician's discretion. So a clinician would need to evaluate the person who may need COVID-19 testing, and that person would have to hit a threshold of a minimum of symptoms such as cough, ongoing fever, respiratory symptoms, and at that point we would make a decision clinically if a test was required. If a test is required, our lab can obtain that test. We do send it out to our reference lab, Quest Diagnostics. There is about a 7 to 10 day turnaround time on the test currently from Quest. They are improving that every day. So that is becoming more prevalent in our area, but right now COVID-19 testing is limited in Lane County and in Oregon, and is by clinician direction only.
Okay. So final piece of advice before we move on, what is our responsibility? What can we do to help prevent the spread of COVID-19?
The best thing that we can do to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 is to thoroughly wash your hands anytime you touch a frequently used surface, particularly doorknobs, elevator buttons, things like that. Keep your hand sanitizer available, wash them with warm soapy water when it's available. And to sneeze and cough into a tissue and discard the tissue, that's a little bit different advice than that's been given before, to use the crook of your arm, but you can use that if you need to. And then to self-isolate when you do get symptoms, to keep yourself self-isolated until you are well and until you have visited with a provider.
All right. Thank you so much, Deb. We're so happy to have your expertise here. Of course, wellness is about whole wellness, mental health as well, and ensuring that our students have an excellent experience, even virtually. And right now, we'd like to bring in Chris Winter. She's our Dean of Students. And Chris, we know that this pandemic is challenging for students and their families. We know that you have a staff that helps to ensure our students are healthy and active and engaged in campus. So how has your work changed, and what is your office doing to help support students?
It's a great question, Jennifer. Thanks for asking. As the Dean of Students, my role is really to believe in the dreams of U of O students. And that role hasn't changed. I believe that my staff is on that same path. We are here to support students and are very dedicated to doing so. While COVID-19 may have presented some challenges to us, I think it's also given the staff a really great opportunity to figure out how can we meet the needs of our students and best support them in a different way than we've done before. So there are some things I want to point out for students, some supports that students should know about. First is our SAFE hotline is available 24/7. The number will be on the screen, but that's 24/7 counseling for students that want to talk with someone and try to navigate options and get some support that way. My Dean of Students team is also doing virtual drop-in hours every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. So students can connect with a human either over the phone or remotely over a meeting and talk to someone about what they need for support right now, get some information about resources. I think that specific tie-in that I'm really excited to talk about is that Students in Crisis Fund. We are so thrilled that there's going to be a focus in getting some more funds for students that are struggling right now due to unforeseen circumstances beyond their control, and they just need some support to be able to have some basic needs met for them. So we're seeing a really big increase in students that need some support in things like paying for rent or utilities or their grocery bills, and we're so thrilled that we have dedicated donors across the country coming together as a Duck family to help support our students in that way. So if students are interested and need that support, they can go to our Dean of Students website, and there's a form that they can fill out to request support, and they'll talk with someone in our office after they fill that form out, and we'll get you on to next steps for that. We've also been working really hard with some remote programming. So I think part of the disappointment for students of not being able to be more present spring term is there are so many wonderful events and programs and activities happening. So I will say that we've been working creatively to make sure that we're engaging students in this way remotely, but still engaging them. So things like offering online fitness classes through PE and Rec, that will be happening, virtual coffee hours, our esports intramural team, leadership workshops or different workshops offered online. Our career counselors are ready to offer counseling sessions to students online. So we are supporting students as we normally would. We're just doing it in a little bit of a different way. But we also know right now specifically students really need that support. This is unprecedented. We haven't been like this before. And the other good thing I will say for my staff specifically, I know, is that we really miss our students. And so we know that at least by doing these programs and offering support remotely, we still are able to connect with them. Even if it's not face-to-face, at least we're still able to connect with them virtually.
All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, Dean Winters. I'd like now to bring back President Michael Schill. President Schill, probably one of the most frequent questions we've had is about tuition. As we know, families are challenged at this time, and there have been a lot of questions about, just even during this town hall, about how we are addressing tuition, whether tuition will be changed due to remote education, and what is our approach to that?
So this is a great question, and I really, I understand the frustration of some of our students and our faculty, not faculty, but our students and their parents actually, about the tuition question. And let me say, as far as I know, no school in the country is discounting tuition, and we can't either. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is we are committed to providing the same quality of education as students would get in the classroom. It'll be delivered differently, it'll be delivered remotely, but as Chris and Danica mentioned, we are committed to providing all of the same services that we were providing before, now that we're remote. Now, there are some services that we won't be providing, and there we're going to give refunds or not charge. So, for example, for those of you who are in the residence halls and paid for housing and dining, we're going to refund or rebate any amounts that cover the period when you weren't here. Secondly, what we've done is we've reduced our mandatory fees by 34%. And that's to cover things like the PE and Rec Center. Well, that's closed. You can't exercise there, so we're not charging you for that. It's to cover the EMU. You're not in the EMU. Many of you are not around, and so we're not going to charge you for that either. So we're finding ways as much as possible to reduce the costs. At the same time, the costs of remote education are actually greater than the costs here. You have to set up a whole new structure to be able to do that. So although I wish I could be able to give you news and say, you know, we're going to charge a discount, I really can't do that, and I can't do that responsibly because we need to be able to fund the university, and we need to be able to fund the same education and services that we're providing. But I do want to just mention again, we'll talk probably more about it, for those of you who are having trouble, who are lost your job, not able to afford groceries, not able to afford rent, please contact the Dean of Students office to talk about this Students in Crisis Fund. Our alumni are giving money. We had a duck funder one day, we had over 300 donors. So we're raising money. We're raising money because we are a community. We care about each other. We care about you, and we want to help you if you have an emergency.
And President Schill, the university has done some things also being thoughtful about if students aren't able to pay their bills on time. We've made some changes related to that as well.
Right, we're waiving late fees and this, for the next 2 or 3 months, so you can pay, when you're able to pay during that period. So we're not going to we understand this is unprecedented, right? That we're all sort of feeling our way together, but we're feeling our way together as a community, and that's important.
I think another question that we've received, even just as we've been on the program here, is trying to understand the out-of-state versus in-state. I think there are some families that think, well, my kids are, or my student or I am taking my classes remotely. I'm not in-state, so why am I paying a different rate, remote, in-state versus out-of-state? Can you help us kind of understand that funding structure a little better?
Sure, and this is another really good question. Basically, the way our tuition is structured is it's not where you live and it's not where you're taking the courses that determines your tuition. It's the way we're funded. The state of Oregon provides us with money every year. The money they provide us is supposed to be used to subsidize the education of people who are residents of the state of Oregon. So if you're not a resident of the state of Oregon, you can't benefit from that state subsidy. And that's part of the difference between the non-resident tuition and the resident tuition. It has nothing to do with where you're taking the class. It has to do with whether you are a resident of the state of Oregon.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, President Schill. We're going to turn now to some more questions that we've received. One, of course, is about commencement. We're delivering education remotely for the rest of the term. And while the governor's orders to stay home last through April 28th, we certainly have seen that there's some expectation that there's going to be a change in our lives well beyond that date. And the university did make the choice to not hold an in-person commencement, and that really is hard. I know I'm a parent of a son who will be graduating this term, so we'd really like to bring back Chris Winter to help explain about this decision making and what we can do really to make this as special a program as we can. Chris?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Jennifer. First, I really want to take some time to apologize for how this was announced. We were all working so quickly to get answers out that day, but we should have done better in how we sent that information out to students and their families, and so I want to apologize for that on behalf of the university. That being said, I do want to assure students and their parents that this is a priority for us. And I have to be honest, like you, I am disappointed, I am sad, I'm almost grieving that this tradition that we're used to at the University of Oregon is not able to take place this spring. But we can't let that stop us from celebrating you. You have made some amazing achievements and accomplishments, and we want to make sure that we're honoring that and celebrating that in a way that is unique and special to Oregon. So our team is working on how are we going to do that for this spring. We are planning to involve students and get their opinions and their thoughts on what would make sense for them to offer a remote type of ceremony this spring for students. And we're also looking at options for the class of 2020 for summer and fall of how we could honor their accomplishments in that matter. And we will be communicating that out with graduates in the next few weeks.
All right, thank you so much, Dean Winter. So I know that also schools and colleges traditionally will have their own ceremonies, their own celebrations. I mean, it's really a wonderful time on campus. I'd like to turn now again to Dean Nutter. Sarah, can you tell us how you all are thinking about how you're going to celebrate commencement and make it special for the business school students and graduates?
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. We actually already faced this in the Lundquist College of Business. We have a master's degree program in sports product management that actually graduated last week and quickly had to pivot from being a face-to-face celebration for more than 200 people to a virtual event that could have no more than 10 people present physically. In making that pivot, I will tell you that the staff was tireless in doing it. We did use Zoom in that particular case, but I will have to say it was incredibly touching and meaningful. Each graduate was recognized individually. The speakers were brought in virtually. An added surprise benefit was that individuals that previously would never have been able to attend, family members and friends that were from very far away, could actually tune in to see their own student recognized. So we in the college have already been thinking about this possibility and are looking at what we can do when we approach the June graduations to make it equally as special and recognize each person in a meaningful way. More news on that, but I do want you to know that we already had one occur that way in a very quick fashion. And I have to confess, I had an opportunity to speak, and I think there was a Kleenex and tissues involved. It was very, very touching in terms of how the students congratulated each other and how the faculty were able to recognize them individually.
All right, thank you so much, Dean Nutter. So I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the additional questions that are coming in. And I think this next one, Chris Winter, we'd like to have you answer a question about housing. There are a lot of people who are concerned about their students' belongings that have been left in the dorms. Either their students are either not returning or wondering when they can get those items picked back up again. Can you give us a little bit of guidance on how students can find out and families about how to get their materials, their personal items?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I also want to say, in case anyone was wondering, that the halls are still open. So residence halls are still open for students that need a safe space to be if they can't travel home, that they can live on campus and dining. We have dining food options for them as well. If a student wants to cancel their contract, they've decided to stay home for spring term, they just need to go to their My Housing account and let housing know. And as was mentioned before, they will refund for any fees and for the contract. So we'll allow students to do that. Full credit for that as well. For students, if you live locally and want to come pick up your things physically, we are allowing people to do that. You just need to contact housing to make arrangements for practicing social distancing. So there's some things that they want to do to make sure that people are safe in doing that. But if you don't want to come to campus, even if you live locally or if you live far away, housing is working to make arrangements for packing, shipping, or donating, whatever someone decides they want to do. They plan to email students by April 13th with more information about what that's like. So people don't need to worry about somehow coming up here to get their own things. We'll work with them to make arrangements to get belongings back to students.
And students really shouldn't come back to campus if they haven't already come back. We really want to honor the governor and all of the CDC's guidelines, don't we?
Correct. Well, we miss having you in Eugene. We do have an executive order from our governor asking people to stay at home and save lives. And so we ask that students do not travel back to Eugene if they are at home now.
All right, thank you so much. So I have a question that I'd like to address to our provost, Patrick Phillips. Patrick, we have a question here that people want to know a little more about that grading and attendance change. I think that we want to understand how the no pass thing works and why we made those decisions and how they'll impact temporarily this spring term.
Yes, so for most students in the university, this is at their choice, so they can decide how they want to approach this. So our primary goal is to make the educational experience as flexible as possible while acknowledging the challenges that students might be facing at this time. And we actually started this at the end of the last term because we allowed students to elect to change their grade status from graded to pass, no pass. We've always had that option for some courses. Usually you have to make that decision fairly early on in the term, and the number of courses is restricted. And it does have some implications for your major and things like that under normal conditions. These are not normal times, and so we've created a lot more flexibility. Students can choose to change from graded to pass, no pass throughout the entire term, even after the term is done, if they choose to. And we're making sure that that choice does not have a negative influence on their path to degree. And I'll just reiterate, I think, how the president started this whole thing. We have one goal, and that is to not allow this disruption in the world to disrupt the paths of our students towards their educational success. So this is one example of where we're going to rapidly change some very ancient rules of the institution to be responsive to student needs. But in all of these changes, it's really at the discretion of the student. So if they want to take advantage of this, if this is something that makes sense from them to them, then they can do that. But it's certainly not something that they're required to do if they'd prefer just to keep a graded option. But it will be available for all courses this term.
So it gives us a little bit of control in a very uncertain world, students giving that option. Another question for you, Patrick. If a student is sick or isn't able to attend their remote class, what is the protocol for that? What kind of accommodations might we make or would we normally make for a student who's sick?
Well, under any conditions, of course, we would always look to support the student, and there's a wide variety of ways we could do that. Definitely through advising, we can have coordinated action. If a student is really incapacitated, then usually we try to work through advising to contact the faculty. On an individual by individual basis, though, students can certainly seek accommodation from faculty. In some ways, the way that we're doing education gives a lot of flexibility to students even while they're sick, so they would be able to rapidly catch up on course materials. All the lectures will be available, obviously, through remote education. The kind of projects and work activities will be available. So we'll work with the student. Again, we are 100% dedicated to their success, and so we won't allow things to be impediments to them. And in some ways, as I said, we're really built a lot of flexibility to support that just by the way that we're structuring the entire educational process.
And President Schilling, you've really asked this of your vice presidents and deans to think about the whole experience for students, haven't you? If I can bring President Schilling back.
Yes. So I just want to emphasize what Patrick said and what we've heard from everybody is universities, colleges and universities have been around since medieval times, and we don't change that often, right? We don't change very quickly. We have made more changes in about 2 or 3 weeks than we probably have made in a decade. And we're doing that, and we're incredibly flexible because we care about our students, and we want the faculty cares about our students. The faculty is changing how they're teaching to be able to deliver courses online. All of our services we're adding to be able to achieve remotely. And the reason for that is, again, I don't want to overuse the word, but we are a family, we're a community, we care about each other. And so we are going to provide all sorts of flexibility to ensure that every one of our members, every one of our students can succeed. And if that's extra time here, or if that's a pass-fail option that you get to see your grade and then choose the pass, that's what we're doing, because we know we're in an exceptional time period and we want everybody to come through this well, and we're committed to that.
All right, thank you, President Schill. We received a couple additional questions. We had some additional people just starting to tune in, and we want to reiterate the point about housing. So I'm going to bring Chris Winter back on again. Of course, all of this information is also available on our FAQs and on our coronavirus webpage. If you go to the UO homepage, right on the front of the screen there, you'll see a link to all of the information in the FAQs. The FAQs also have all of that information about the housing. Chris, I wanted to just reiterate that housing will be emailing students and families no later than April 13th, correct?
Correct, yes. They'll email them no later than April 13th to talk about their options for packing and shipping or donating if someone decides to do that for part of their belongings.
And I think what people want to know is that my son's or daughter's stuff that is sitting in their room is okay. It's still there. They don't have to worry.
Yes.
Make sure
Correct.
that we can pick this stuff up. They don't have to worry about rushing here. They can take care of themselves
Correct.
and their family, and we'll get to it. Is that right?
Yeah, we want everybody to make sure that they're safe first, and we will figure out belongings second. So humans first and belongings second. We'll absolutely be working with them to make sure, though, that we get belongings back, knowing that students bring a lot of important things with them to college.
Okay. So I want to bring Danica Scott, our Vice Provost for Student Success, back on again. So Danica, some of the questions we're getting are very specific to the kinds of help students need. Things like tutoring, whether there'll still be the writing tutoring and other programs. Can you again mention about the kinds of support students have? And in fact, I think some students may just find the technology challenging. Are there options for students who are like, I don't know how to use Teams, or I don't know how to use Zoom, or what is Zoom, or what it, all of that? Can you give us some help? I mean, certainly we've all figured it out. We've been able to do a town hall remotely, but a few more thoughts on that, Danica.
Yes, definitely. So academic support, we're still here to support you academically. So the same services that we had prior, when you think about tutoring and academic support, are still there. We're just doing it remotely. So if you're having any difficulty in downloading the apps, or if you need additional support, the telephone still works. So you can make phone calls to get the support that you need, and have someone help walk you through those services. We were fortunate in several areas in which we had, prior to coronavirus, had transitioned to some remote help for students, even while they're on campus, so that we could meet students where they were. So as far as kind of the writing support, we have an online system in which a student can upload their papers and then receive feedback in that way. So know that we're just really here to support you. We do care about you, and you are family. I say it all the time. We're family. We're ducks. So what does that mean? It means that whatever support or services you need, we will be there to help you navigate what's going on. So telephone, email, downloading apps. But if you're having any issues, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll be there to support you.
That's great, Danica. And it's interesting because we did invest in some 300 new advisors just at the start of this academic term. And we really made a deep investment in those advisors. Those advisors are all still available. That's right. And if they're trying,
still available. And
so one,
and
sorry, go ahead. I apologize. I was interrupting you. Go ahead.
What's happening is, a student, if they already have the number to advising that they call, they will be connected to their advisors. Advisors are still remotely advising students through technology. So we're there, we're ready. We have really connected. And when I talk about connecting to our students and trying to connect to all of our students prior to this term, we've been doing that through telephone calls and other means. So we're here. We are here.
And I need to correct myself. I said 300, and I of course meant 24 new advisors.
Yes, I was going to correct you on that as well. Yes.
Adding to our ranks.
Yes.
So I apologize
yes,
for making that mistake. I have another question for Dean Nutter. Dean Nutter, I know that certainly the business school, for example, the students they'll collaborate in small teams. And that's really a big part of sort of that experiential learning. Will students still be able to break into small groups and meet in small sessions under this new remote learning format?
Yes, and I'll just comment also on the last question you asked Danica. The professional schools and colleges, many of them also have advising and career services and tutoring, and that is still up and running as well. So for those students that have worked with their professional schools or colleges, please do feel free to continue to reach out there. We're fielding calls every day. Now, in terms of the group learning, yeah, the tools that we've adopted actually, for example, Zoom has an ability to create separate little rooms for students to work together collaboratively, even in the context of a standing class. So in the middle of the class, a faculty member can say, hey, break into your groups and go talk about this. So that whether it's in the class or outside of the classroom, there will be places for students to continue to collaborate virtually. And we're even looking at things like student clubs and how we're going to continue to keep the club experience going as well, because there's so many wonderful resources that come through the clubs as well. So expect to see more from us on that very soon. But absolutely, what you had when you were here on campus physically, we are very much moving to replicate in a virtual world.
So I'd like to ask a question of our provost. We do have a question here about whether instructors will still have regular attendance policies, and also what to do if a student has not yet heard about a class that is a couple days away. What if there's anything they should do specifically? Patrick?
Well, I hope that students will hear. I'd love to hear if they haven't heard yet. We're hoping that all faculty will have already reached out to students. All of those courses should be available online through Canvas, and so we're making sure that that's available to everyone. In terms of attendance, obviously, because we're trying to provide maximum flexibility, we've actually eliminated all attendance requirements from courses. And one of the, there's very few silver linings at this moment, but Oregon was a little bit more prepared than some other states in getting ready. And so faculty have already been able to make adjustments to their syllabi in anticipation of both the changes in rules and requirements that we have, as well as having course materials ready. For instance, we discussed creative practice and those kinds of things. So I hope that students will find that faculty have already adjusted those requirements. But if they find that they haven't, we have almost 2,000 faculty on campus. Let's reach out and talk to the faculty If you have any concerns, we're of course going to be addressing those directly.
And we've actually really seen some fun, sort of creative energy from our faculty. I know I've been seeing online at least like a half dozen faculty members who actually created trailers for their classes, like their biology classes, really just enthusiastically welcoming students to campus, and then also engaging through the Teaching and Learning Center and our through the classes that we offer. I mean, I've found it very heartening. So Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about what you have seen and the way our faculty are sort of embracing this challenge?
Yes, I think, this town hall is all about addressing student needs and challenges, but you can imagine as a faculty member, you're told, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, you have to totally change your course and how you're going to do it. And, quite frankly, being in administration, you're not totally sure how that's going to go over on campus. And I got to say, I am so proud of our faculty, the energy that they brought to addressing this problem, the can-do spirit, the community spirit that the president has been emphasized is just really being exemplified by the faculty. So we have faculty who maybe are a little more experienced than others, and they're creating listservs, they're helping each other with tricks. I heard about a math professor who invented a new way of basically showing what they're writing on the board by using their iPhone. You mentioned we have a great Around the O story about some of the course trailers. I really encourage people to go look at some of those. Biology faculty member Diana Labuda did a really exciting one, just kind of looking forward to this. So I think faculty are in the system because they like challenges, they like intellectual challenges, and this is a new challenge. And I think you're seeing a lot of creativity coming out, as well as just support for each other. And we're centralizing that within the provost's office. We have a whole academic affairs team. Again, we've just basically all hands on deck kind of attitude. We've been holding several weeks of training sessions. Actually, the chief information officer also reports to me, and she has done an amazing job in bolstering our technology. We actually had to rapidly negotiate expanded services through Zoom. We had to expand our VPN services, just all the back end sorts of things to support all of this. And it's been just a team effort, and everyone is involved, everyone's positive, and we're just going to keep working to make this work for the entire university.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I just want to remind everyone again that if you or your student is looking for resources or you have any questions about anything you've heard at this program, it will be rebroadcast in its entirety, actually recorded and placed out there so that you can see it. Also, our coronavirus webpage, which is uoregon.edu/coronavirus, has all of the decisions we've made. It also has our frequently asked questions, which is broken down by subject matter. We've also created a very specific web page for students. It's remote.uoregon.edu, and that it has all of the information that you need, study tips, everything that you need in order to set up your Zoom. If you need a loaner laptop, we have those available. All you need to do is put in a request. There's additional information about internet access and the providers that have availability for that. If you're having technical problems or technology problems, also things related to the health center. And actually, that's a really good question that's just come in that I'd like to ask for our nurse, Deb Beck. We have a question here about what resources are available for students who may be feeling a lot of anxiety or stress during this time, as really so many of us are. Deb?
It's a great question. We have a lot of resources online to help manage stress. We also have teletherapy and in-person counseling available. And we also have an entire psychiatry team that's available in person here for students in Eugene. And we're also able to help people outside of Eugene with these questions and ways to manage anxiety. It's really important to take care of your mental health. There's a lot of unknown right now. It is a challenging time. It is a change for University of Oregon students studying remotely. They may need to manage those sorts of things online with help or without help, but we have a lot of resources available. And most of them can be linked directly from the University Health Center webpage. And then there's also resources at the University Counseling Center webpage. And they are all linked at health.uoregon.edu.
All right, thank you so much, Deb. And so certainly this change has impacted our entire campus community, and we know that we're actually getting a lot of questions right now from members of the campus community, faculty, and staff. And we are really excited to announce that we're going to be holding another virtual town hall. It is going to be held later this week on Thursday, this same exact channel. It'll be from 4 o'clock to 5:30. We'll be sharing specific information about how faculty and staff can ask questions. Similarly, we will be able to ensure that we answer your questions. We'll also create some programming based on the questions that we already receive in ahead of time. So we'll have that information for our campus community via our daily coronavirus email that we've been sending every day. So please do look for that. So another question that I'd like to ask for Danica, for students who may be struggling with remote education, who may have accessibility issues or need some other kind of accommodation, are there ways in which we can support students across the continuum of their needs?
Yes, and very similar to what's available in an ongoing way. We have our Accessibility Education Center, which is still up and running again, although remotely, in which if students need accommodations, we still have those processes in place. In addition, if students are struggling with this newer format for them of learning, there are a couple of things that they can do. And one is to reach out to their faculty members, but we are also there to support students through that as well, if brainstorming through alternative ways that students can approach remote learning. So there's the formality of actually going through the Accessibility Education Center, but then there's also the support in how to actually navigate in courses that maybe is not the primary way that students actually receive information or can engage in the course.
Thank you so much, Danica. I'd like to ask Chris Winter another question. It goes back to the Student Crisis Fund. What are the ways in which, in case people missed it earlier in the program, what are the ways in which people, if they are having financial challenges or barriers to being able to complete their education, that the university can help, and how can they access that support, Chris?
Sure. Yeah. So I think a couple other things I want to mention too, that the university has been really thoughtful in offering some deferred payment. So I think that that's one thing that students should know. Again, the loaner laptop that you mentioned, I think that's another excellent resource that the university has provided to students. That remote website link for students that the provost talked about earlier also has some links on it to get some lower payment rates for internet service. So students that don't currently have internet service and need it, that they could look on that as well. For the Students in Crisis Fund specifically, a student would just need to go to our Dean of Students website. There's an application, they could fill out the form. And really we want to support students that, due to unforeseen circumstances, now specifically with COVID-19, they're really struggling to continue on in their educational journey. We want to do all we can to remove the barriers to make sure that they don't have to stop with their classes currently due to unforeseen circumstances like this. So the biggest request that we're getting from students is help with paying their rent, help with utilities, help with groceries. So it's really just the basic needs that students are asking for support. Oftentimes they've had their job is interrupted, either they're off campus and the place where they're working is closed for the time being, or as President Schill mentioned, they are back at home and they have an on-campus job, so they can't get here to do that job and do that work. So that crisis fund, students just need to go to the Dean of Students website and there'll be a form that they can fill out to apply for it. And then one of our staff members will connect with them specifically, some one-on-one connection, and chat through some options. It's often a great conversation because they help them navigate some other resources that they might not have known about that would be helpful to them. And then we can usually get a turnaround time in those funds within 24 hours if it's during the work week. We also
And
work closely with financial aid to make sure that any funds that were given isn't impacting their financial aid package as well. So we partner closely with our colleagues in financial aid.
Great, and there again is the information up on the screen. If you are a student in crisis and you would like to access our fund, please apply at DOS, that's Dean of Students at uoregon.edu. And again, as we mentioned, you will let them know what your need is, but you'll also get a outreach from someone who will talk to you so that they can be sure to address the needs that you have going on. And if you would like to help our students, of course, we'd love to be able to have you generously give to our students. That's giving.uoregon.edu. So I have a question here for Patrick, and thank you again. My son just attended his first 2 classes today. They were both pre-recorded videos. Will teachers also teach live classes? And so, Patrick, what kind of guidance or latitude do faculty have? I imagine that some of them really wanted to have some things prepared for that first day, but what kind of latitude do faculty have in teaching their classes?
Yeah, I think it's, of course, all courses are at the end determined by the faculty and how they think that they can best deliver the content. I think the easiest way that many faculty will approach their courses is to treat it just like a lecture environment, and that is to open a Zoom session or some other format and then go ahead and give the lecture while you have, the dozen or 200 students kind of virtually with you in that moment. So that's going to be a very common mode. I think to get the week started, a number of faculty definitely wanted to make sure that they had some things ready. I think we all have some trepidations about bringing 20,000 some odd students online simultaneously. So we want to make sure that this first week in particular is successful. But it is, some faculty might decide to do what's called asynchronous delivery of education, and students who have taken flipped classrooms will be familiar with that. But I would expect that all education should, through the normal classroom experience that's not a formal online course as they're known, would involve some direct contact, I should say. And we also have the expectation all faculty will be giving office hours. Those will be virtual, of course, but there will definitely be opportunities for students to engage face-to-face with faculty anytime they want to. So again, as we've been saying, I really encourage students to reach out to their faculty if they have specific questions about the format or delivery of the courses and how it's working for them and what their challenges might be.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. My next question is for President Schill. Mike, you have talked a lot about wanting to ensure that students graduate on time, that they stay on track, and certainly this might be tempting. You've spoken to it to the students in several videos, a time where people may want to, sort of hunker down. And what is your message to students about, slipping away or not continuing their education during this time when we really kind of need each other and we need the things that ground us?
So, I actually think, as you know, I'm actually calling students. And so every day I call 20 students and I talk a little bit about how they're doing and try to gauge, how they're approaching this. And I have been just super happy about the attitude people have, that this is, obviously no one in the million years would have wanted to be in this situation. But there's such a spirit of let's make this work. People will remember this experience in their lives when they're 20, 30, 40 years from now. This will be a formative experience. And I actually think rather than putting the covers over your head and sort of saying, well, I'm just going to go to sleep for 2 months or so and then all this will be over, I would double down. This is an opportunity. Your opportunity cost for your time, you're stuck at home. right? You're not able to do very much. Study. Get ahead in your studies. Take an extra course or two. This is an opportunity to engage with faculty members through open office hours. They'll be very clear to you. You can engage, develop relationships with faculty members online and through Zoom, which is a similar technology to the one that we're using now. Also, it's a time of experimentation, right? We have liberalized the pass-fail option, so you can actually see how you did, and if experiment, take something that you might not have ordinarily thought about taking because you thought you weren't going to do well. You can actually take it. Maybe you don't do well, and then take a pass-fail once you see that. So it's really, you don't have that option in general. So this is really a quarter in which I think you can do a lot of things which are creative and different. Again, I'm not saying that it's something that we would have wanted to see. I'm just saying, we've got some lemons. Let's make lemonade.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the students telling you, Mike, when you talk to them? How are they sounding? What are they saying?
So, okay, I call and I go to voicemail. We know robocalling has not been good for cell phone calls. So, and I've only had one student hang up on me. I think he thought I was a robocaller. But other than that, I've spoken to probably about half of the numbers I've dialed every day. And they're just totally enthusiastic. They answer the phone and I say, "Hi, I'm Mike Schill. I'm president of the University of Oregon." And they say, "What? Who are you?" They don't believe me at first. And then we have a conversation. I say, "I'm just checking in, seeing how you're doing." And there's this really positive view about they would have liked to have come back to the University of Oregon to spend this quarter with us because we're a very special place. On the other hand, they're very grateful that the faculty have adapted in the way they have and that the university is reaching out and caring about them. I've even talked to some parents because if I don't get you on your cell phone, I then I have another number, which is frequently the parents' number. And then I call them and they say, "What? Who are you?" And then they have a conversation and they have been, overwhelmingly, no one's not been pleasant and everybody has been just really surprised that we're the sort of a community that cares about our students enough that we're going to reach out and we're going to talk. And we have trustees who are doing that. We have obviously faculty, advisors who are doing that. Again, the best way I can say is we're community.
All right. Thank you so much, President Schill. I have another question for Chris Winter, our Dean of Students. So Chris, this is a challenging time for the seniors. This is their last quarter. We're all disappointed in the fact that we won't get to celebrate this in a traditional way, but they also have to enter an uncertain time of workforce. And we've always had career advising, but how is Student Life sort of approaching our career readiness in this time?
Sure. So Career Services, our University Career Center, has taken a really exciting step forward, I believe, in offering services virtually. So they are offering career counseling virtually. They're working with current employers to see, can they do some mock interview types of things. So again, we're all still in a space where we're trying to work through this and figure this out. And so Career Services has taken a real focus on how can we do this virtually and support students through this process. So I would stay tuned on that. Their website will be updated with that information specifically as well. And then I also want to say too that I think I had mentioned a little bit in commencement before, I had forgotten to mention that we are working on next steps for things to do in summer and fall. And so I want to assure our seniors that have worked so hard that we are working on what can we do, or can we do something to honor them either in summer or fall as well. So stay tuned for that. For the seniors that I know, this was not the spring that you expected. It wasn't the spring any of us expected. So we're still here to support you in figuring out what we're going to do for commencement, but we're also here to support you in your career search, which is just beginning for a number of them. So stay tuned.
All right. Thank you so much. Another question that families are asking and students are asking is, well, when will they come back to campus, and what will it be like, and to go back to campus living? President Schill, how will the decision making be informed going forward? I mean, obviously we've made a decision for all of spring term, but how do we look ahead, and how will your leadership team assess the condition and make your next decisions?
So the next decision that we're going to make is for the summer term. And the number one consideration, just as we've made all along, is the health and safety of our students and our faculty and staff. And no one wants to begin in person more than me. When I walk through the campus, it's lonely here. There's no one here. We want to see our students back. On the other hand, we will not endanger our students by prematurely allowing students to be in close contact with each other. So we're going to make that decision as we see how the coronavirus, whether we indeed peak at an early point and then go down to a lower level. We will follow the requirements set out by our governor, and we will follow the guidance provided by the CDC. So that will really determine what we do. I am really hopeful that we'll get to have a summer session where some of the students can be back. And I'm even more hopeful that by the fall, remember, we start a little later. By the fall, we'll have everybody back. We'll be beginning football season. We'll have alumni on campus, and we'll be able to celebrate the end of this horrible period of the coronavirus.
And certainly a return to our study abroad programs at the appropriate time when all of the decision making is happening, because we know that our students really do appreciate that experiential process.
Absolutely. We very much want all of those things to go back, if not to normal, but back to whatever the new normal is.
For sure. I'd like to also just bring back Deb Beck, our director of the Health Center. Deb, we know that this really changed a lot for folks, and our students may be concerned about their health and their emotional well-being as they transfer to campus. We'll be here for them, won't we, when they do return to campus. Can you talk a little bit about how your staff will be available to help?
Absolutely. We're available now, and we will be available through this entire time. We will expand our hours as necessary to meet all of the needs of the students. We will be out and about greeting students when they get back in a safe manner, and make sure that they're integrating back into the University of Oregon life the way they saw it before, to our new normal. It's really important to us that they are physically and mentally healthy, and we are absolutely here to support them. We are in this with all of our University of Oregon students, including those outside of the city of Eugene. So please feel free to reach out to us. We will be here throughout all of this, and we will be here when you return to campus. I personally, I'm on campus. I'm looking at the campus now. It's very empty, and I miss everybody's faces and miss interacting with students as much as they miss being here. But please do know that my team is here for you. We are here today. We will be here every day until we reopen the campus.
So before we get a chance to have everyone else say a final word, I'd like to go over some of the resources again that we have available for students and families. As a reminder, at any time you can visit the UO homepage, uoregon.edu/coronavirus. On that page, you'll find at the very top all of the latest information about what is happening with campus operations. That will link to a page that has all of our frequently asked questions, everything about from health and prevention, housing, if you're still needing to pick up your information, things about tuition, about our fee remission, about if you need help with financial aid or advising, that is all available there. Also, if you're a student who is new to remote, as we all are, we have a special webpage just for that. It's remote.uoregon.edu. And on that website, you can find out information again about the loaner laptops, about Zoom, best practices. We have really fun backdrops for our Zoom. You can have the University of Oregon behind you while you're doing your Zooming, and that's available to everyone. Tips about how to set up your study space. Certainly lots of information for students who are looking for connections, and if you need internet access or you need support from our tech folks. And finally, our crisis fund. Our Students in Crisis Fund, which has received a wonderful infusion of donations, a commitment, our commitment to help students. To apply to that fund, it's dos.uoregon.edu. When you apply to that fund, you'll get a phone call from one of our Dean of Students folks. These are things like helping you pay for groceries or bridge a gap in your housing because you are not able to work because your business is closed down that you've been working at due to coronavirus, or perhaps your family who's supporting you is having challenges. And then, of course, if you would like to donate to that fund, that's at giving.uoregon.edu. Again, if you have questions that we did not answer, I think we got to pretty much the buckets of all of the questions, the more than 300 people who asked us questions during this session, the more than 600 ahead of time. We will continue to update our FAQs. And now I'd like to go back to our group of 6 and give everyone just a minute or two to say a last word to our students and their families as we enter this unprecedented term. I'm going to go ahead and start with Patrick Phillips, and I'll end with you, Mike. So Patrick, I'll let you start.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Hopefully we were able to address a lot of your questions, but I'm sure more will come up. I just want to reiterate the fact that as soon as this crisis emerged, I sent out a lot of communications to our faculty, and the number one message has been, we have a laser focus on one thing, and that's to make sure that this does not impact our students in a negative way. We're here to support you. We're here to take care of that. Obviously, there's going to be glitches along the way. None of us have ever done this before, I think, and we're talking about as a country, as a state, as a university. So we do ask for a little bit of patience, but we are going to be there, and we're very dedicated to delivering high quality education and exactly what the students need to continue on through their academic success.
Thank you, Provost Phillips. And now, Danica, if you can say a word or two.
Yes, thanks, Jennifer. I just want everyone to know that we are community, and the health and wellness of our students is of utmost importance. And we can't wait for you to come back. We miss seeing you. We want you to continue on in your education and be successful. It is our job to ensure that you are successful. If you have any questions or if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us so that we can fully support you. We are in this quest, have tried to be really flexible. And again, Patrick mentioned having a little patience with us as well and affording us grace as a community, as a country. We are moving through these unprecedented times together.
Yeah, we all need to have grace for sure. Chris Winter, what would you like to leave our students and families with?
Well, first I have some good news that this was just in for me. I understand a lot of people have questions about when they're going to get their fee refunds for those things that we said that we're going to refund the fees for. Those should be coming out in the next couple of days, so I get the pleasure of announcing that. But the other thing that I really want to remind people of is that we have so many staff working tirelessly to make sure that even though we don't get to see you face to face, we are still engaging with you, that we're still offering supports for you, that we are giving you a chance to keep connected with the community and stay safe and well no matter where you are, with some self-care practices and well-being practices, even though you're far away from us. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Dean of Students office should you need help just navigating where to go, or if you need access to crisis funds. And just know that we have so many staff working tirelessly to keep you connected with us while we can't have you on campus.
All right, thank you so much. And Dean Nutter, you're representing all of the deans on our school. What do you think the deans want families to know as we enter this term?
I think the deans want all of you to know that each of us on campus is fully devoted to the success of our students and the safety of our students. We know that this term is going to look a little bit different. We know there'll be some hiccups. So what we'd ask of you, especially of the students, as you're working with faculty, as they're reaching out to staff, if you see something that's not working, reach out and raise a question. And one of the department heads in my college said to me, we know there's going to be a few problems, but you know what? We're going to figure it out. We're going to pivot. We're going to make it work, because at the end of the day, we care about the students. We care about making a difference. This is our passion in life. This is why we're here. And so please do continue to provide feedback. We want to hear from you. Your faculty want to hear from you to make this learning experience that you're going through, the educational experience, the best it can be. And bottom line, I think we miss you as much as you may miss us.
All right. Thank you so much, Dean Nutter. And finally, Deb Beck, not finally, we'll still get to you, Mike, don't worry. Deb, what would you like our community to know?
Well, I think it's really important to know that we're all here for you. There are many people on campus at the University of Oregon, in the Health Center and in the Counseling Center, who are here to support you. Our vision at the University Health Center is to help our students soar to success, and that's what we intend to continue to do. We have a trained team of dedicated people here. We're happy to help you whether you're here in Eugene or outside of Eugene. All you need to do is reach out to us and give us a call, and we're happy to help. I think it's also important to remember that we have a lot of virtual resources to help you manage your health and to help you manage your mental health care, which is all of it very important to you as you work your way through the spring term. We're sorry you're not here with us, but we are here to support you and help you get through the spring term.
Thank you so much, Deb. And finally, President Michael Schill, what would you like to say to students and families as we end our program here shortly?
Well, everybody has pretty much said it all. I think that the most important thing is to take care of yourselves, to take care of your health, the health of your families, follow the rules with regard to distancing and all of that. And then when I think about our community, I have never been more proud of our entire community, whether it's faculty, whether it's staff, whether it's our administrators, just everybody here who is really showing how much they care. And some of you who know me know that I'm a hugger, and this is not the disease that you can do much hugging. So I just want to give you all a virtual hug and tell you I can't wait to see you all back here in the fall.
There you go. I really like to thank you guys all for joining us. We really enjoyed talking to you. I know that we're all working really hard, and we're living proof that you can do this. You can actually communicate and ask questions and interact, and we know we can really relate to our students and what they're experiencing and our faculty. Thank you so much. Again, if we didn't get directly to your very specific question, we really tried to cover everything that we saw, but if there's anything that still you're wondering about, or an additional question that comes to mind, please do feel free to use our web form or to call our hotline. That hotline is available. It's Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Let's see, that number is right there on your screen, 541-346-7007. You can also first check the uoregon.edu coronavirus webpage and our FAQs. You can look through there, and if you're unclear about a question, we've addressed tuition and housing and commencement and wellness and remote education. If for some reason you still need some clarity, please do reach out to that phone number, visit our coronavirus webpage, submit a question, and we would be happy to do our very best to answer that for you. This program is been recorded, and it will be available for viewing again, along with all of that information. So if you do have something that we haven't covered, we are very happy to be able to give that information to you. Again, we're really wishing you a happy, healthy term. We know that these are unprecedented times, and we are all extremely committed to making this the best educational journey that we can as a family together. Thank you again for joining us, and go Ducks.